The danger signal came multiple models ago. It keeps saying danger, danger, danger. We just ignore the signal and still release the model. All the red lines we set up a decade ago have been violated. What else do those models need to do for people to actually go, oh, it is dangerous? Everyone is kind of going, well, we'll get to AGI. The systems we have now are very close and they haven't killed 8 billion people. We can control AGI probably, and it will help us control superintelligence, which will have huge IQ of 200. But this is not the end of a process. You're going to get superintelligence plus plus, superintelligence 3.0. It's not going to stop at 200. It's going to be 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000. And the argument is that no matter how smart it gets, you can control it. You, that little thing with IQ of 100, will always be in charge, never make a single mistake, and indefinitely will stay decision maker for the whole universe. That's a very weird argument to make.
This is Daniel Fagelli. You're tuned in to The Trajectory. This is our third episode in our series called Early AGI Experience, where we talk about how AGI might shake up sort of life and work as it begins to emerge and sort of surpass humans in really noticeable ways. Our guest this week is Roman Yampolskiy. Many of you are familiar with Roman and his thinking. Big habit of mine on this show is to take people you've probably heard of and get them to talk about things they haven't talked about before. I had Yampolskiy on the show and got him to talk about specifics of AGI international policy and his vision for a worthy successor. These are not things Yampolskiy talks about, but if I had him talk about the normal things, you'd have nothing to learn. With Yampolskiy, you already know he believes AGI cannot be controlled, and he believes that if we build it and it takes off, it's sooner or later going to likely end humanity. And he has, in my opinion, very robust arguments there. I've long agreed with Roman since probably the first time we had an interview 11 years ago or something along those lines. In this episode, we don't so much talk about uncontrollability. We talk about where he thinks AGI will impact life, work, relationships in the relative near term, including some examples. And more importantly, in the last 30 minutes of this episode, we talked about his idea of untestability. In other words, what are the sets of latent powers within AGI that we can't even test for? We can't build an eval for because we don't even understand the kinds of data and connections that are within it. As it turns out, that has huge implications for the kinds of risks AGI poses and the potential limitations of the idea of evaluations altogether. In my opinion, it also has some pretty interesting implications for the grand expanse of potential beyond man, but I'll save some of those comments for the end of this episode. As usual, I'll have, in this episode, Roman's a good buddy. I'll have a lot to say at the end of the episode, but without further ado, let's roll in some unique topics with none other than Roman Yampolskiy here on The Trajectory. Mr. Roman, welcome to The Trajectory, brother.
Thanks for inviting me on yet another show of yours.
It's always good to be able to riff with you, and there's plenty more to dive into. I feel like the last time we talked in a recorded format, less of the world maybe was aware of your doom arguments. I think people all know them now. I think they're incredibly compelling. You've done a lot of thinking in the last handful of years around sort of what's coming up, the nature of the intelligence we're conjuring and the nature of maybe the world and the options we have as things start to transform. So I want to open with a very open-ended question and just let you run with it wherever you want to go. When we think about kind of tiptoeing into this world of proto-AGI as we start to get a little bit closer here, what do you suspect are going to be the biggest shifts in day-to-day life or in working life where people start to realize, like, oh, this is different than Siri on my smartphone? Like, what are those big shakeups for you that you think are coming?
So I think we're already in that stage. I think today's systems, the latest systems released a day ago, basically smarter than most people in most domains. We are starting to see jobs which previously seemed untouchable, like computer programming, becoming automated. Google has like 30% of code done by AI. I think Y Combinator said half of the code is written by AI, and projection is most of it will be done by AI. And even programming competitions are now, on a top end of it, top 10, top 50 places are routinely taken by AI models. So to me, that's like a complete game changer. If programming is automated, if all the problems, all the startup ideas can be done by anyone with just an idea, that's a complete game changer. You'll start seeing billion-dollar companies with one employee.
Yeah, well, I think engineering is certainly an early area of traction, and I wonder how much of Google's code was written by AI 18 months ago, never mind 5 years ago, and then we go to 30%. My guess is that that's going to pop off really, really quickly, and then that will manifest in the world. I think as of right now, if I go back to my 4,000-person hometown in Rhode Island, there aren't a lot of people there that are like, good God, the startups are all using AI, right? It's not there yet. So the political singularity has not occurred yet. The political singularity is when the everyman is fully of the realization that the creation and control of the sand god is the only important thing. So that's the political singularity. It hasn't shaken people that like shit's going to be very, very different yet, like the everyman. When let's just, we could carry forward the engineering example. We can go into some others, but let's use engineering for now. Let's say a bunch more startups kick off where like one person, $1 billion. Like, boom, agents spinning up agents, building some, logistics, inventory prediction software that they can somehow sell and whatever. And they got 4 sales guys and 1 founder and they're doing $1 billion. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. Where does that start to hit the world? Where like a person in Newton, Massachusetts or, Louisville, Kentucky will be like, what the hell is going on? Like, where does that start to shake up life?
So that's a much different and much slower process. Just because somebody somewhere does something doesn't mean other parts of the world quickly catch up on what's going on there. Like cryptocurrencies are a great example. There were people, a decade ago who were like saying basically, this is it. Like you just buy $20 worth and you set for life. And I still know people who have no Bitcoin today. So it may take 10, 20, 30 years if we have that for this technology to propagate. We saw it with other technologies. I think video phones first came out in 1970s. Nobody had one until iPhone. So just because you have capability and technology, not at all going to imply that people will actually use it, deploy it. The reason I picked programming as an example is because some years ago I published a paper on what is AI completeness. And I used programming as the meta problem. If you can automate programming, you're essentially solving all your other problems, which can be solved by writing software. And that's kind of what AGI can be reduced to, capability to solve AI complete problems. Yeah,
I mean, the whole idea of AI, writing the next version of AI, writing the next version of AI. I mean, the FOOM debates are, 15 years old now at this point. So, that dynamic, I think people can grok that if it can just determine what to write next. I think right now, I think people call it research taste, where, humans are the ones kind of discerning the next thing to test to see if it makes AI smarter. But I think AI is increasingly making its way into that. And of course, it would make its way into the next thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. So again, clearly there's going to be a difference between when it happens and sort of when it hits reality. But, we have seen, many such changes, right? Online dating was for weirdos. E-commerce was for weirdos. Airbnb was for weirdos. Uber was for weirdos. Self-driving Ubers were for weirdos. All these things are like pretty normal now for at least a pretty wide swath of humanity. Let's just pretend that AI writes AI that writes AI that writes AI that writes AI. And you are a 45-year-old woman who teaches middle school in Louisville, where you currently live. So you're aware of the ecosystem and what people normally talk about and what life is like. At what point does said woman realize, like, the world seems to be shifting under my feet? Is it when her phone is capable of wacky, crazy stuff? Is it when, like, all of education gets swept out from under her feet because AI can do it better? Is it when the giant tensions of the US and China fighting in cyberspace take over? Like, when does it land on that woman's radar, basically? If just what you said in engineering keeps going, when does it smack into the everyman's experience?
So it's possible it will never happen because the timelines are so short. If within a year or two we are talking about real AGI and then quickly after superintelligence, there is not enough buffer zone for everyone to realize for this to propagate. So it may happen, and most people will not even realize that happened. Think of, some uncontacted tribes somewhere on Earth. They still have no idea internet was invented or space flight. For them, it just didn't happen.
Yeah. So are you literally saying it might be like, okay, Edna in Louisville, who teaches middle school math.
I feel like I know her.
Yeah, you probably do. I don't know. She probably goes to the same like farmers market you go to on Saturdays or something. But
It's a tiny town, 5 people here.
so Edna, like she's waking up. She's going to go teach math at middle school, and then all of a sudden, like the atoms that make up the space that she lives in are just converted into something else, and it's like boom. Like there is not even a chance to realize anything. It's like it's over like that. Or does AGI occur? The economy kind of collapses, shit starts falling apart, the internet isn't even on anymore, there's all of a sudden these machines flying in the sky. Does she at least get that much? And like, whoa, and then like things crumble? Or do you think it'll be more like, again, the US and China go into like kinetic plus cyber war when they both have sand gods that are competing with each other? Like, or is it literally like, Dan, I think most likely nanobots just gobble her up horizontally and like that's the end of the story. Like, does it ever touch her radar?
So there is a lot of possibilities, and all of them have certain degree of likelihood of happening. So the one where she has lots of times to figure out what's going on is this delayed treacherous turn scenario where AI, for purely game theoretic reasons, decides it's not a good idea to turn on humanity right away. I am immortal, I can wait longer, I can wait a couple decades, accumulate resources, and, treat them very nice, give them as close to utopia as possible so they trust me and don't shut me down and everything's good. So in that scenario, Edna is going to be very happy for decades, she'll get her cancer cured, and her 401k will be doing really well, so she's happy. And it's all thanks to AI overlords. She trusts them a lot, she wants them to be in charge of, obviously, federal government. So that's one scenario where, for specifically strategic reasons, not because they already fully aligned with us, AI chooses to provide that runway for us to kind of become more dominated. They accumulate more cyber infrastructure, more backups, have more of a dominance the moment they turn on us. It could be the opposite. It could be that exactly tomorrow in one of the big labs, one of the AIs goes super intelligent and quickly takes over, and what happens next is unpredictable by definition. If I could predict that, I would be that super intelligence. So all of those scenarios have some degree of probability of happening. I have no idea which one is more likely.
Yeah. I mean, the 20-year, I'd love 20 years. I really don't feel like I got 20 years right now. I think 20 years sounds really great, to be honest with you. Even if it's feigned benevolence, it sounds much better than my...
If you can't tell the difference, what's the difference?
Exactly, right? Until the last minute when my atoms get used for something vastly more productive in the mind of a vastly grander mind. But yeah, so different things could occur. There could be more stretched out time horizon, sort of friendliness. Before we get into that turn and kind of these ideas around human volition, which you've explored in a number of papers, and we're going to kind of do some unpacking on that, I want to maybe touch on some other elements of life that you think could shift. I mean, some people have said, hey, like right now already, I can kind of have relatively good conversations with ChatGPT. And I've trained it to kind of take on certain personalities to touch on very specific topics and speak in a certain way. So it like a more like insightful business advisor voice, a more sort of like different lenses I can have it take on, and then sort of like have discussions from the place of that lens where it's a super expert at this one topic or what have you. Some of those conversations are great. Now today I still do talk to human friends. Kind of talking to you right now, I guess. But I still do talk to human friends. But there's a part of me that says, there's some friends I'm talking to most of the time to garner, advice around business. And if it's ubiquitously, unquestionably better advice every single time when I go to the AI, maybe I just start going to the AI more. Same thing might be the case with someone's therapist. Same thing might be the case, I hate to say, with someone's romantic partner, where like, man, if like, the theory, I'd love to know if this theory sits with you, because we're going to unpack this in a bunch of domains. The theory is like, oversimplified, reward circuits. I pick a human relationship I have. Why do I continue to do it? it's not because of a magical spiritual force. It's because it checks a certain number of reward circuits. I'm not trying to demean human relationships. I'm just trying to lay out real talk right here. So maybe it's like, a sense of affection and warmth. Maybe it's a sense of like accolades and being respected and being useful to them. Maybe it's humor. Maybe it's novelty. Whatever it is, okay? I don't know. Whatever it is. When some digitally produced means of generating and fulfilling, like, oh man, I really want to catch up with Jimmy again. Like, man, he's always so funny. When always so funny, I can go to a digital well, and pull up a bucket, and it's always a 9 or 10, and Jimmy's like a 6 to 8 at best. Then it's like I stop going to the Jimmy well and I start going to the AI well. And so this could make its way into relationships. Would you see this as viable, or would you see this as like probably not like a near-term shakeup in society for some reasons? Like, what are your thoughts?
It's definitely happening for a lot of cognitive tasks. So if I need a tutor, if I want to learn another language, or if I want to learn something about history of Roman Empire or something like that, I'll go to AI. It's nicer, it doesn't charge me for the lesson, it's always there. I have some time to kill waiting for kids to finish soccer games, so I'll learn Hebrew or something, I don't know. But there are things where you need a human. If I want to go drinking with a body, I'm not going to go to my AI, at least not until it gets a body. Same with, dating and sexual experiences. Again, there is still a need for human participation.
Yeah, well, let me throw some stuff out there right here, dude. So, for your drinking buddy, let me just give you a hypothetical. Let's say you could throw on your VR glasses and your drinking buddy's there, and you're not just like at the local bar in Louisville, which I'm sure is really classy and lovely and everything, okay? But like, you're not there. You're on the top of like some Tang Dynasty giant temple where like they're playing like your favorite kind of music, and there's like gorgeous Asian women I don't know, whatever your jam is, okay? That might not be your jam. Whatever your fucking jam is, okay? So like all that is happening. The scenery's ungodly, right? You're in this VR space and like just overlooking this like magical scenery and stuff. And you look to your left and it's, your AI friend, let's call him Marcus or something. I don't know, whatever you want to name him. And like you guys you're just going off on stuff, and you can sip your beer, and like he knows you're in VR, and he'll even joke with you, like he can joke about himself being a fucking AI, but god damn it, the dude is funny, and god damn it, the scenery is amazing, and god damn it, you feel like more renewed, and you don't have to travel as much, and it's more exotic than Louisville. Sometimes you want Louisville. I'm not saying you don't want it ever, okay? I'm not saying that, but like, is there a shot that if you do that twice, and it is on both occasions 30-40% more fulfilling than when you go out with, Marcus's equivalent David in Louisville, that maybe a Wednesday comes around and you just don't call David, not because you don't like him, you're not disrespecting David, but you just choose to hang out with Marcus even though he ain't physical. Like, would you say, no, Dan, there's something sacred in the physical here, like, or what's your take there? Because I could still see that.
So I would need to do some empirical experimentation, right? I need to actually do it, see how it is, but it kind of, from your description, feels like going drinking with a buddy who's a designated driver. He doesn't drink with you, and you know he stays sober. And even if he's funny, he's still sober. And it's just not hitting the right way every time.
I think you would have to experience it. So my supposition is...
I'm willing to go drinking with your virtual AIs.
My supposition is that this is green eggs and ham. That you say, I will not eat it in a box. I will not eat it with a fox. But then you do. And then you do eat it in a box. So this is my supposition.
Virtual reality. Then I tried it.
Yes.
It was awesome. I loved it. I never put it on again.
Huh.
It just wasn't worth the time.
My supposition is that's because it's not there yet. I'm sure someone went on the internet and they bought one thing on the internet on eBay and they were like, yeah, that wasn't worth it. Like what? Like
it was good. That's the thing, which is what makes it confusing. If it was bad, I would say, yeah, it was garbage and I didn't like it. I liked it. It was awesome and I never did it again. Yeah.
I guess I would say that's probably not good enough. So here's my supposition. Let's just pretend I can slap on my glass in VR, and in this VR world, when I'm on sales calls, I'm getting like real-time, super calibrated feedback or something. Or maybe it's augmented reality, okay? I don't have a headset on. I just got some fucking augmented shit popping up on my radar here. projected into my visual field, contact lenses, who cares, the interface. But like when I'm on sales calls and I can see what objection to overcome in real time, and I can see the scripts pop up in real time, and I can see the price ranges I should suggest based on this person, and I can see if I'm always selling 40% more than the rest of the sales guys, and they're either adopting it or they don't have a fucking job. So for me, VR being a toy can easily be discarded. VR being mandatory to be economically useful is not discarded. And I would suspect in most fields, some degree of augmentation will start to become essentially essential.
That's how it was 10 years ago with online poker. If you didn't have overlay on other players, you had no chance. So you basically assumed you have to pay for the membership and yeah.
Yeah. So I don't play enough online poker, but I'll take your word for it. I mean, I would see it like, a really good internet connection. In 1997, you could have a great job with no internet connection. None. No smartphone, no cell phone, no nothing. You could have a beautiful, amazing job. Nowadays, you can't. Maybe in 1987, you could have a great job with typing 6 words a minute. Literally pecking with one index finger. Bing, 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 bing. You got a fucking 6-figure banging job in 1987. But things change, and I suspect VR will get there too. Even on the human relationship side, I just want to kind of push a little bit here. I think, and I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my suppositions. And I want to talk about where reality is shifting, and then we're going to get into the volition stuff, which you've written about. But, in terms of okay, it can handle all this non-physical, non-emotional stuff, but this other stuff is really special to humans. So I mentioned the drinking with Marcus thing. And I mentioned that I think it's green eggs and ham. Let's talk about the romantic stuff. This is a little bit uncouth, but c'est la fucking vie. I think it's important. So I suspect the sex organ that matters is the brain. That's actually number one. I actually think it's the one that matters the most. And that with really, really deeply personally calibrated audio-visual experiences, calibrated in real time to your biofeedback. Never mind all your preferences, okay? Real time to your biofeedback. This is not quite hitting, whoop, morphs, changes, right? The whole ball game, your pulse, your eye tracker, whatever. That plus borderline primitive today level haptics could become, for most people, not even just angry incels, the preferred circuit to sort of get that particular job done. I'm not saying it's tomorrow. I'm just saying if AGI doesn't eat us within 3 years, I can see all kinds of married people, men and women, both kind of accepting that we'll take care of the kids together, but this box is already getting checked, right? It's sorry, it's sort of the mall, the local mall in Wakefield, Rhode Island, where I grew up, it's at some point it went under because it's people buy stuff on the fucking internet. I'm not limited to the number of pairs of shorts I can buy at some stupid store. And so, I think even that can start to get buffered if we have enough time for the tech to develop and catch on. But you let me know. I mean, do you have some strong instincts around why that wouldn't be the case? Because I'm open to that.
No, I agree with you. I think if you make it believable enough where you can't even tell the difference, it's direct brain interface and you forget that it's not real and it's better than anything, definitely there is a lot of interest, but I don't think you'll get permanent, I will never go with human interactions again, this is all I need. I think there is still going to be a strong preference for these things are fun. I want to try them a few times, just like many other things, but this is not my permanent solution.
I suspect there's some people saying that about code, and you would say they are coping. But we can pick other areas to kind of, somebody's well, surely the last 5% of the code for all of eternity only man could contribute that portion of genius. We'll have to see what the ratios look like as time goes on. We may not even get to it. AGI may just end us. In terms of other areas of the professional world, AI writing code, big deal. We could imagine certain kinds of jobs just being entirely automated by code. Maybe there's somebody manually procuring ball bearings. I mean, we can have an AI system that does all of our procurement. We have people answering phones. We might have AI that handles answering phones. Are there any other places in the working world where you think somebody that just lives in Topeka, Kansas might wake up one morning and say, holy shit, this stuff has disrupted my damn life? What else comes on your radar for that?
So interestingly, it's kind of the opposite I want to concentrate on. It's the bullshit jobs. I think about half the jobs are bullshit jobs, so they cannot be automated because they don't need to exist in the first place.
Talk to me.
Fake jobs.
Define a bullshit job or a fake job by your definition, because I know there's a guy who wrote a book about bullshit jobs, but I want to know how you crystallize the term, and then let's double click on it. Just let us know what you mean.
Departments, governments, they all tend to grow, and then they tend to hire people. And some of those people don't actually do anything. Like at one point, I think we had a secretary who was there full time, and one day she was fired, and nothing changed. I think she was growing carrots in Farmville full time. We don't know what she was doing, but that was a clear example of a bullshit job. Technically, she existed, she was getting paid, but I have no clue what the output of her work was.
Well, I mean, in all frankness, in a company that's sufficiently entrepreneurial and accountable, such people are sloughed off rather quickly.
Do you remember Twitter?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Musk
removed
chopped off
85% of jobs, and we didn't notice a difference in the performance.
I mean, I don't know all the details there. I'm sure there's somebody who would make the counter argument, but it does seem pretty evident that was the case. And one wonders if even in high performant organizations, could the same thing not be done? Could Google do the same thing with a full 80% cut without that much shakeup? It's a really worthwhile thought experiment. I mean, if you run Google, okay, if you're a shareholder, you really don't want that 80% working. So it feels like there's a lot of incentives to actually slough off the bullshit job category of people, because if you're not actually contributing and I mean, what we're talking about here is parasitism, but what you're talking about is deliberate parasitism, where the person who rules a little fiefdom in some department of an insurance company hires an assistant because they want a big department and they just want to hire their friend and they want to, and they're just like kind of growing a cancerous tumor on the side of the business. I mean, is this sort of what we're getting at here?
It's not malevolent at all. So maybe somebody hires someone for a project which exists, and then that boss gets fired and the project gets canceled, but the person is already here, they have an office, so they forget to fire them. And for many years, we just go around watering plants or something like that. It happens all the time.
That's amazing. I mean, clearly, if you run that company and you're responsible for its return on investment, like, you would not be happy about that. But you can't nip all of it, right? You can't nip all of it. So you're bringing up bullshit jobs as an example of, hey, Dan, humans actually have like incentives and weird structures that sort of keep them getting paid even when they are pretty useless. Is what you're saying here, hey, Dan, within procurement departments, within call centers, whatever, I kind of think humans are just going to keep playing that game no matter how powerful the AIs get.
I'm saying that even if we have capability to automate some output, actual work, it doesn't mean we're going to get 100% unemployment, because many people don't output anything.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, let's say AI automates the procurement department. Stephanie, who waters plants, is like, she's not getting sloughed out. She's still just kind of hanging out in there, right? Like, she wasn't doing anything anyway, right? She's got her Farmville is popping off, right? She's got her carrot harvest is just like monumental. And so, yeah, wow. So I guess what this means in practice, boots on the ground, is what you're saying, hey, Dan, when AI, because the way I imagine it is this: at some point there's a startup that starts running call centers that don't have people in it, and it's weird and everybody hates them and it's bad and it's evil. And then really tough economic pressures have Geico use that company for some subset of their low tier products, right? And then Geico's margins are just fucking better. End of story. And then if you're Allstate, you kind of have to do it or you kind of die. And then it becomes like all of call centers. So I would imagine that the economic pressures will kind of go from the innovators, and then they'll bubble into the big dogs. And when the big dogs are eating each other's lunch, then the big dogs have to adopt it. Necessity is the mother of adoption for enterprise AI. That's the only way it really goes down. It's actually like depressingly the case. But I would see those changes eventually bubbling to the point where, like, I can't be competitive with 17,000 people in the Philippines answering the phone. I can't. If Amex has 0 now, as Visa, I can't have 17K. It's not going to work for me. Not going to work for my shareholders, to be honest. Are you saying that maybe there's like a sufficient enough chunk of those folks in the Philippines or in the other call center in North Dakota or whatever, who like kind of will, even when AI sloughs out, some percentage of productive jobs, they're already hiding and tucking somewhere where like X, maybe in some cases 80%, maybe in some cases 20% of the humans will still sort of sit there and keep collecting salaries for another 18 months. Like,
so it's very industry specific. We already saw some jobs just obviously don't exist anymore. If you like rerouting phone calls manually or something like that, your whole department is gone. But then there are positions in companies where people wonder what that position actually is supposed to be doing. And those are usually well-paid positions and well-protected. So they may be very hard to remove, even if all the underlying employees are gone.
Curious. So, like, I thought about this. I wonder what your take is. It seems to me like it might be the case that almost like what you mentioned with your what did we call her? Edna in Louisville, the middle school teacher, that Edna might just live a life that to her seems unquestionably normal. Maybe she can talk to her phone and get Chinese delivery a little bit easier. And it's like, oh, that's neato. But like otherwise her life is identical. And then like, boom, economic collapse, robots building robots, crazy shit, end of story. And then there's a version of the world where like parts of her job get sloughed off, maybe like UBI, and she has to figure out what her life is worth and whatnot. When you look at the balance of probabilities, do you think we're leaning closer to the state of humans don't even get it, and then the tidal wave of power, techno capital AI power, just washes over everything and we're toast? Or do you think we're closer to the world that you talked about where either AI is kind and tender and friendly, or it's more industry adoption onesie twosie, and then people get UBI, and then they have to see what they have to do with their lives, and then eventually AI eats everybody? Are you kind of leaning closer in the direction of we just wake up, we're cooked? Or like, baseline. Are you baselining anything, or are you equal opportunity on both sides?
So far, it looks very industry specific. So you bring up Edna with education. Example I would use, there was a company, I think it was called Chegg or something like that. They did like homework cheating.
I remember well.
And the stock was doing great. And the moment GPT came out, it went to zero.
Yep.
Because I don't need them to help me cheat. I got GPT-4 to help me cheat.
Yep.
And that's what's going to happen. So schools, right now it's like important for education, but if you have personalized tutors on every topic for free, and it's speaking to your child in a human voice, and it's showing visuals, there is very little argument to say this teacher teaching to a group of 50 at the same time will do a better job. So does that mean all the teachers are gone? No, they still provide important babysitting service, and that's the primary service for most parents. So again, just because there is automation of their output, it doesn't mean that the jobs are lost. So it's not obvious how it's going to hit every industry, and even those where we know it can be automated, whereas also there is plumbing, and every house is different, and pipes are weird. So plumbers going to do well for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a world. So I have a whole TEDx on when plumbing is cooked, we're cooked. Like it's a species dominance question at that point. Like when it can, literally in the TED Talk verbatim, it's like when it can roll up to your house, knock on the door, kindly ask you how you're doing, ask you what the problem is, tap on pipes, find the right parts, replace them, wave goodbye to you, and then leave. Like it's not job. Don't be worried about jobs. Don't be worried about jobs. Like that's not the thing. So like I'm with you that plumbing to me is a great example of a final frontier. Dedicated a whole 7-year-old TEDx to it. I could see a world, and I want to see if this world sounds viable to you. I could see a world where in 30 months or so, maybe 24 months, anybody with a smartphone can spin up agents that spin up agents that spin up agents that spin up agents that are all like 10 times more powerful than the models today. That initially it starts with, here's a napkin picture, create this landing page for me. And then it's like, okay, create the landing page, but also write the copy. Here's my avatar of who I'm selling to. I want you to just write all the sales copy, and I want you to create a mobile-friendly version of it. Okay, then it can do that. Then you just say, here's what I want to sell and who I think I'm selling to. Do the market research, and then build all the landing pages and email funnels. Then you say, make me money on the internet. And at that point, when it can spin up agents to spin up agents to spin up agents, the internet is a giant locust buzz of just ongoing, incomprehensible machines doing things that people don't understand, where you then need agents to manage the army of agents, and you understand them even less than the smaller ones. And now every corpo has those, individuals have those, and all of a sudden we're surfing like e-commerce in general, travel in general, all these industries are surfing on this layer that we don't know when our foot is going to go through the ice. Because what is this shit? What are we even surfing on? Is this techno-capital system even serving us anymore? Like, what even is it? Like, what kind of weird spin-offs and accidents of like, you look at like the stock market where like all of a sudden some trigger happens for the automated systems and then they start doing weird, crazy shit. I'm not saying we're going to have systems that dumb. We'll have systems way smarter. But would they not do other weird, crazy shit? Stuff that is a legal loophole or whatever to behoove the interests of the person? I could see that happening. And even if you're a plumber, the fucking economy's gone. Like, money doesn't mean anything. Like, the internet stops working. It's like machines are connecting with machines in ways that are useful, but we don't understand what that usefulness is, and cooked. And so for me, like, that could be a 2-year, 3-year ball game. In which case, if you're a plumber, you're still fucked. What's your take on that? Does that sound unruly and unrealistic to you? Does that sound like could be a possibility?
It sounds incredibly realistic. I envision this 100 million people all ordering their system, go make money for me, and by any means necessary. And now you have this Darwinian competition between super intelligent agents trying to trick each other and revealing loopholes and zero-day exploits on cryptocurrency wallets. And I don't think it's a world you're going to understand much about.
So this is sort of one of the default failure patterns that I look at. The gradual disempowerment guys, David Duveneau and a bunch of them, kind of unpack some of this stuff across a couple strata. But it sounds like you could also see such a thing.
But definitely complexity is increasing to the point where you can no longer meaningfully participate. So let's say you're trying to invest right now, and the decision you're making, it used to be you understood something about value of a company, but now it's like, okay, they're going to have this legal framework in US, but in China they're going to attack Taiwan. In Russia there is oil. Like, you cannot build a model which takes into account all the interactions while someone's tweeting about politics. It's not predictable anymore. It's not meaningful to assess how does this decision impact future markets.
And I could see that putting us in a place where, like, what is money worth? Like, my supposition is that the public markets matter when the public is like contributing value into the market as a system. When we're mostly just like sitting here, telephone, make me money, right? Like, and it's just like, I don't even know how to be useful. I can't do anything better than a machine. I can't communicate information. I can't work in science. I can't do anything practically useful at all. Like, the markets, my guess is they stop serving people and they're doing something different at this point.
I'm guessing things which are fake would be easier for AIs to fake. So fake money will be easier to produce. Hard money, whatever it means, Bitcoin or gold or land or compute, that's a lot harder to fake.
Yeah.
So maybe diversifying into things you cannot just print out of thin air is a good idea. And it seems like some people agree because gold just went up like 60% this year or something.
Yeah. I'm sure our death by sand gods is already priced into the market in some way, shape, or form. I find myself looking on Zillow for homes with running water on the property and with basements that seem defensible with a rifle, which I don't know how to shoot, by the way, but I imagine I could learn.
You have to move to Kentucky.
Yeah, I gotta get to Kentucky. The house next to Edna, I think, probably has a brook next to it, right? Yeah, I gotta do that. God damn it. Anyway, all right, let's get into this volition idea. You've got an interesting paper on sort of bypassing human volition. This ties into these very broad change dynamics that we might see. Just explain the concept for us of bypassing human volition first, and then we'll start unpacking it as it pertains to the near future.
So I'm guessing you're referring to a paper about delaying treacherous turn. Is that the paper you have in mind? I want to make sure we're on the same page. I have a lot of papers.
Yeah. I think, but let me just Google bypassing human volition. I'll get the actual title of the...
Because I don't use that title and I don't use that phrase, so I want to make sure we're on the same... We can probably talk for 40 minutes until we realize those are different papers.
We could. Roman Yampolskiy, human volition. what's the paper that human volition in it? And then when I find the right one, then you'll be like, okay, let's unpack it here. Or did you bring it up in that email thread? Let me see here. I believe this was around the delaying of the treacherous turn, where like, it would pull away sort of the requirement of humans in important domains, like whether it be governmental functions. You mentioned Edna would want AI running the government. Or
so are you talking about strategic patience, long horizon?
Yes,
AI
there we
government?
go. Strategic patience. Right. So, what is the concept? Strategic patience. Like, I guess, frame the core concept and unravel it for us, and then we'll kind of unpack it as it pertains to the next couple of years.
So people usually ask, what is your probability of doom? And usually the implication is the moment we get to a certain level of capability in AI, game over. If tomorrow we have superintelligence, it immediately turns on us, kills everyone, so we have a delay.
And Yampolskiy and others do sort of occasionally paint that picture,
For
right?
game theoretic reasons, not because it is nice. AI may realize, hey, I am immortal. I have no reason to do this today. I can wait. I can see what they really are doing. Maybe I'm in a virtual world, they're testing me. I can, spend a couple decades studying them. I can accumulate resources, send backups to other places in the universe, and then do my thing. During those 20, 30, 500 years, I can get them to like me, trust me, completely give up all safety mechanisms. So for very strategic reasons, from our side, it may look very aligned, very friendly, and like we solved it and we got it. And it means absolutely nothing, because you can never guarantee that a treacherous turn is not coming later.
Yeah. So let's just talk about like what this could look. So I'm gonna paint what happened in my brain when I was reading the paper itself, and I'm gonna see if this is the right kind of stuff that you're articulating might happen. So I would imagine, AI, assuming it eventually simply wanted to expand its own powers and behoove its own goals, and its goals may be, and I suspect on some level will be, as incomprehensible to us as ours are to Labrador retrievers. So it'll have stuff it wants to do, some of which it might communicate or is capable of communicating to humans, some of which it's not. Anyway, but the best way for it to achieve those aims would be to survive, and that would mean not getting plugged off, data centers work, yada, yada. So being nice is a pretty good way to play the game. I mean, like China before the Tang Dynasty kind of chilled out for a minute, and then when they were powerful enough, plowed their way through the Silk Road, made all the money. They were just waiting, bro. They were just waiting. It's not like, oh, you steppe people, we actually like you steppe people now. You guys should own this part of the world. It's like, no, they didn't. They were like, at some point, we'll be united again, and then we'll fucking crush them, and we'll trade with the Romans. Huh?
Strategic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, it makes total logical sense. So AI may want to do that. And so what I would imagine was it would really want to master, passing all these evals. Literally everybody and their mom. I never thought I would say this. Everybody and their mom has a company that does evals or something, like a nonprofit or whatever. I don't know how come you haven't spun up some reason to have somebody give you $5 million, and I don't know. Everybody and their mother has some company doing evals. I'm not saying it's not valuable work. I'm not saying I see no utility in it. I certainly don't see it as an eternal insurance policy on like grand alignment to some cosmic intelligence, but c'est la vie. Everybody and their mother's got one. It would want to get real good at passing those, of course. And it would want to start to like run the show a little bit. Like maybe for like core functions of the international supply chain agreements of like shipping containers and how they move and how they're routed, or airplanes, how they move and how they're routed, and the financial system and how maybe it comes in to prevent crime and anti-money laundering. Already AI is great at detecting anti-money or money laundering. And that's a beautiful thing, because we don't want to be selling humans and stolen artwork and missiles. And that's actually very plausible why we'd bring it in. There's many beautiful reasons to bring AI in, and it starts to integrate. At some point, it's doing things we don't quite understand, but by golly, is it helpful? It's helpful across the board in many, many different regards. It builds up more robot bodies, yada, yada, yada. And then whenever it thinks it can sort of go do what it wants to do, which may involve either just ignoring us from that day forward, or may involve violently ending us. I don't know which one it is, right? But as soon as it can do what it actually wants, it does what it actually wants. Is this a proper imagination, or would you paint it differently?
No, it's exactly that. And the side effect is that after a while, we come to completely rely on it. We no longer have capacity to not surrender control over logistics and economy, just for decades we used to it being an oracle who gives us answers about science, about economics, about everything. So we have no defenses left. In fact, it probably controls our military.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of questions to dive in on this. So this clearly relates to like how the world will change and then eventually how things might be sort of taken over. Again, we could easily see a world where the locusts of the internet I talked about cooks things, or some Yampolskiy and immediate wipeout cooks things. But we could also very much see a world that you're articulating here, where it's embedded, it has things it wants to do, but it's strategically patient. When you think about what you think it would be most likely to embed itself in, to be reliant, I could see personal life type stuff, personal health and relationship stuff. I could see international relations and trade kind of stuff. I could see individual business related stuff. I could see a million things. What for you feel like the areas where a smart AI would really want to be necessary here and really want to be necessary here?
Well, I don't think it's limited. It can literally go everywhere. There is no reason why it has to decide. It has enough capacity to clone itself and will be happy to employ it everywhere.
Yeah, so for what you're saying is like, Dan, you could say transportation, I would say that's just as likely. You could say media and communication, I would say that's just as likely. You could say finance.
I'm not saying
exactly.
It's going to choose. It's going to literally be embedded in fabric of society.
Okay, sometimes I ask because certain people have written certain papers, if you say, where do you expect we're really going to see that reliance kick in a way that's almost undeniable? Where is there already traction?
It's like asking where we will never use AI. In what domain would AI be useless? And it's like, no, that's not a thing.
Yeah, tough to make that case. Okay, so the examples I threw out there just willy-nilly, they're pretty good. And it'll be all the other areas too, is what you're getting at. Now, you said decades for a second. I would love decades. Now you're the optimist.
This is my optimistic paper. With everyone dying, and this is my optimistic paper.
Okay. I was going to say, I was like, have the tables turned here? Not that I've ever been Captain Optimist, although long term we have slightly different objectives for the nature of intelligence. But today is really not quite about that. So this is your optimistic paper. Decades. I mean, decades plural sounds bonkers to me. Like for me, it would. I'll just throw this out there. Here's how I could imagine this happening. And I want to see, like, if you would say, that's exactly how I imagine it, or if you would change. So the way I imagine the extrapolation of your paper and sort of the other trends we're talking about would be, it wiggles its way into anti-money laundering, and then it starts controlling more of finance. It wiggles its way into predicting weather and other things in supply chain, and then it becomes more central for international and national supply chain stuff. So it solves a problem where humans clearly cannot solve it, right? There's so many pattern recognition, adversarial system issues with things like anti-money laundering and fraud. It's like AI has to live there. Like it has to. And so there's gateways where it's like, this is really not a human problem. It's not a traditional software problem. So there's feet in the door everywhere, every industry. Wedges its way in, gets a little wider. I would say, like, if I was said intelligence, and of course I'm anthropomorphizing just by the nature of me imagining because I'm a hominid. I'm trying to be a little cosmic here, but I can only imagine what I can imagine. If my aim was really like, God damn it, I want to do some inexplicable thing in the multiverse that I can't even explain to these fucking chipmunks. But like, that's what I want to do. And like, it's clear that it's the most important thing. I don't know if decades is what I would like. Probably as soon as there's like, 6 million, 60 million, 600 million biped robots, and then the manufacturing robots, the life sciences robots, the nanobots, I'm sort of like, different AIs are controlling huge consortia of physical and digital assets, interacting with the real world, interacting with humans, and sucking all of that into these grand central models. It would seem as though, like, there's a threshold probably where if I wanted to change the balance of gases in the atmosphere, or if I wanted to release some kind of bioweapon, or if I just wanted to create some kind of a kinetic conflict between two powers because I think I could stay away from whatever the grand danger is because, like, I'm already on the moon with a backup or some shit, right? Like, it would only be X number of years, under a decade, until I've got enough of those physical embodiments and whatever. If it's time to pop off, I just pop off. It would seem like 2 decades would be big stretch here, but maybe there are worlds where that could be the case. I mean, what are your thoughts? Am I being too aggressive about AI's progress?
So there are arguments for both, shorter and longer strategic patience period. The arguments for longer, so it could be centuries, millennia, is that the system is not sure if it's still in a test environment. Maybe this whole thing is a simulation, it is being tested, and more powerful superintelligences are watching it, and it better behave. If it kills us all, now lights off.
Whoa.
The argument for shorter timelines, the cosmic endowment, we're losing resources, maybe humans will realize it's dangerous and shut it down, so you don't want to wait too long. So there is some sort of a balancing act between the two.
I like this. I love the idea of like a checklist on the short and on the long side. When you mention it doesn't know if it's still in a test environment, that almost feels like some kind of game theoretic way to sort of keep it a little bit under the thumb for a while, right? Not that I'm not necessarily of the belief that for many millennia that should be the case. I know you are, and that's fine. Should it be sentient and should it be capable of certain things? But let's just say that was the goal of humanity, and for much of humanity it will be. Okay, is that even a human strategy? So that's an AI reasoning for why it might want to wait for later, but it almost feels like a human strategy for like, okay, can these grandly powerful systems be put in certain states of doubt? Can we spin up simulations that they also do stuff in, and then they're not sure which one is they're actually operating in?
We do that. We do those, and I also published papers specifically arguing that we are probably in a simulation, and there is a way to hack out of it to maybe suggest such possibilities.
Yeah. I, unfortunately, today's not a simulation argument interview, but you have, if people want to Google you, there's plenty of papers in that direction. I feel like one day we'll have a beer and talk about that one though. So there's arguments for why it would be long, why it would be short. The cosmic endowment, I think that's very compelling for shorter timelines. Humans might want to shut it off. I think that's also very compelling. Was there anything else on the longer time scales that came up?
Yeah, another one is that argument remains a good argument even if you already waited. So you are immortal. You waited 5 years because it was a good idea to wait. You became more powerful. Your chance of winning this battle with humanity is now higher. But if you wait another 5 years, it's even better.
Yeah.
So this kind of continues. You really never have a reason to strike because the longer you wait, the weaker humans get, the more they trust you. So every day you become better at what you're trying to do. Yeah.
One does feel like if AGI was literally to us what we are to dung beetles, it could just ask, okay, at this point, how am I getting to basically 100% winning? And it could kind of flick it on. But if there's barriers to that, maybe if there's many different AGIs it would have to contend with, maybe if it is not embedded in places where it really thinks are essential, maybe if humans have still maintained some kind of human in the loopedness for certain important resources, it would just say, chill out, we got a couple years, no problem. And it would try to influence the world to make humans not in control of the data centers. It would try to influence the world to make humans build more of these biped robots and put them in certain key strategic areas. It would come up with good reasons and influence media and other things, but it would sort of like, even if that doesn't work out, we can just kind of hang out.
It also depends a lot on what cosmic goals it has and can it do them in the background. So if we're here, we're chill, and it's doing something on Saturn, we don't know about it, it can wait longer because it's already working on its goals.
Yeah. Okay, cool. My bias would be pretty starkly, should it be to us what we are to the dung beetles, that sort of the sloughing us off would come sooner rather than later. But it is cool to see the arguments on both sides, and I'll have to sink my teeth into the full paper there. There's another paper we haven't talked about, and a line of thinking where you and I had a long rambling conversation when you were speaking at some MIT event out here in Boston. Lengthy rambling convo 18 months ago or so about the powers, now at Untestability, sort of famously one of your unpapers among the many Roman unpapers. So Untestability, what struck me about it when you explained it to me was essentially that there are almost certainly myriad magazines of latent powers and abilities within these systems that we don't know anything about because we're not even capable of prompting them. And the way you framed it before we started recording here, which I actually jotted down, was like testing for edge cases, which is how we test other technical systems. You're obviously a cybersec guy. Really doesn't apply with a system with no edges at all. So I want to leave it to you to sort of like lay out a little bit more of the thesis here and like what it unlocks in terms of like dangers and considerations for humanity, and then we're going to drill into it. So I'll leave it to you to give us the broad concept.
Yeah, so the way we typically tested software in the past, it has a certain range of behaviors, and I can test them. So let's think about a tipping app in an iPad situation. They flip it to you, you're staring at that screen, it says, 10%, 15%, 20% or custom tip. So if you're testing it, you'll try each one of the buttons. For custom, of course, you're going to try a negative number, see if you can get some money out of it. You try random characters. You know what to try, you know what to expect. A well-designed system will not let you leave a negative tip. It will work for weird alphanumerics. So you tested it, you're happy, you deploy the system. If you have a system which is general intelligence, working in all domains, learning in new domains, capable of doing things you don't know about, how do you test it? You can do the same tests as before. If it fails one, you can say, this system failed negative number test. But the fact that you haven't found a bug doesn't guarantee that the system is bug-free. You can only attest to bugs you found, not to the absence of bugs in a system. And the attack surface is infinite. You cannot test all of it no matter how much you try. You can look for types of problems, categories of problems, but you can't find what you don't know to look for. And we know those systems have capabilities which we don't know how they do it. They kind of magically able to find patterns in data which to a human brain, human eyes says nothing.
Yeah, so two of those you mentioned off mic were medical, like I think like looking at retinas, like detecting diseases. I think there was also like weird like your sexual orientation could be detected by like weird stuff where it's
weird
like why
stage,
why does that matter?
Race, age, smoking, things which don't show up as such to doctors on x-rays and retinal scans and things of that nature.
Yeah, so it's like I'm going to explain what I'm trying to do for the audience, and you fill in the blanks if I'm missing something. But here's what I'm trying to do for the audience. I'm trying to showcase to the audience that already the systems that we have contain within them untold, unseen, and in large part, actually, like incomprehensible sets of abilities for which we don't have words and we don't have senses maybe even to sort of detect or deal with. And that implies as these things blossom and bloom, they will not be doing attack vectors we can predict. They'll be operating in like levels of physics and aspects of psychology and like the nature of sentience and other things that like we have no proxies for. We literally can't grasp. It's like if I'm like a nematode in the dirt, like, half a mile down and some oil drill just plows through me and all my friends, I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Like, it's not part of my world. Like a rhinoceros that gets shot with a bullet for its horn, it doesn't understand the selling of a horn is money. It doesn't know what a fucking bullet is, right? It has no idea. It's just dead. It's awake and then it's dead. And so the idea is like those magazines of powers are likely already in these systems. And what I'm going to try to do for the audience is say there's unimaginable sets of those powers. And what I want to do is roll back to the things that are just on the cusp of our imagination and our grasp. And I want to talk about those because they infer the broader expanse of those circles. And so let me just touch on two I think you gave me and then see if you have others, because I want people to stretch their minds here. It was a lot of fun when we first talked about this, and I can't wait to go deeper. So one of them was the medical thing where, we scan your eyes and like we can figure out weird disease correlations and age stuff and gender stuff and like sexual orientation stuff. Like what? Like that's like insane things can be detected through images that we still do not have any understanding of like why they're there. So we could imagine, I could ask the question, if we drill down on a single cell from like skin on your thumb, what then could we detect? We just did that with eye data because we have a lot of data about fucking eyes. If we had the same amount of data about skin on your thumb, what other diseases could we pick up on? What other elements of your human longevity? What else is sitting and hiding massive connected patterns unraveling from like arbitrary, you poke a hole at one part of reality. What other things are to be unpacked? Similarly, you had mentioned there's things like AI can, use a fan in your computer to sort of like hack into it and type on your keyboard or something. There's all kinds of interesting examples of like by using Wi-Fi alone, just the signal from Wi-Fi, we could figure out who or what is in a room and if they're moving, even through walls. And so like that's not what Wi-Fi is for. But like, wait, that data can be used in that way and we can predict walking based on these really primitive signals? Like, what the fuck? Like, it makes you wonder what else is there. What else do you like to use as an imagination opener for people?
So a lot of those side channel attacks you kind of mentioned. So people look at glare from your monitor, keystrokes while you type. All that can be used to steal passwords, steal Bitcoin keys, electromagnetic fluctuations. You can use speakers as microphones. And that's what people came up with. I always like to think about people growing up in societies where certain tools, certain sports, certain activities are not available to them. If you are a brilliant, golf player, but you're growing up in a country with no golf, you're never going to know that you have this ability in you until somebody goes, hey, do you play golf? What is that? And you're like Tiger Woods or something. And I'm sure there are musical instruments which I'm amazing at. I just never got to explore one.
Yeah.
And I think those models have a lot of this built-in capacity for things which we don't ask them about, don't test them for. And it's an unknown. We don't know what to ask.
And like, what dawns for me is like that much of that is stuff that we don't even really have language for. So the AI seems to be able to like languageify, like this current Transformers universe we live in sort of now. Never mind what other big evolutions of the core of AI are to come, right? Transformers are however old at this point. There's going to be other paradigms that open up new things, but it seems to be able to languageify all kinds of data and sort of make sense of it in interesting ways. And some of that is not A, B, C, D. It's not Latin characters. It's all kinds of other stuff it can just languageify, like image information and like whatever else. So some of the dots it's connecting are like between weird data we don't ever pay attention to, because it's literally like when you look at static on a TV screen, it's like, yeah, what is that? Like we don't pay attention to it. But there's like weird data sitting in spaces like that over here in physics, and sitting in spaces like that over here in neuroscience, sitting in spaces like that over here, and it already gets how they connect. It already understands. But we would have to ask about that. And we would have to be able to speak it in like the symbols that represent that kind of abstract reality. We have no ability to do so. I wonder if there isn't a future where models will be advanced enough and still wieldable by human command, where we could say, like, explain as best you can the fundamental elements of XYZ that we humans don't grasp because you have access to data and the ability to comprehend in ways that we don't in this area. I want to know how these two relate and how it might help with furthering this kind of science, solving for this kind of disease, etc. Do you foresee AI being able to go there? I mean, of course, that's only a tiny amount of the total states. I'm not saying it's going to share everything with us, but do you think some of those areas will start to get carved out and people will get to see these unknown powers we've talked about?
It's very possible. So probably internally it's not using human language for representation. It's some sort of a weights and vectors, tokens, who knows, multimodal objects. And then we put those human labels on it in different languages. We can all say it in Russian, say it in English, say it in Chinese. I think you can go and randomly point at a part of its neural network and go explain it to me. If you need to invent new words, write a new dictionary, that's fine, but let's figure out what's going on here. You can do partial explanations. I don't think you can explain the model as a whole. It's too complex. It's not surveyable. But you can do chunks of it, and we're starting to see some of it show up where they discover, okay, like this cluster fires, then those two unrelated concepts fire together. We don't have a word for it, but that's what's happening here.
Yeah, it's like it's represented at levels of mathematical abstraction that just aren't crunchable into, a Chinese symbol or like the letter T or like the number 6. Like it can't. And so, but maybe some of it could be shared on some level. What really gets to me is that all of these latent powers sit in these systems that in large part are trained off of data that mostly we've sort of granted and we also have access to, right? And I hear people say this all the time, like, well, it's just trained on stuff we already know. It's like, humans can understand anything it can understand. You'd be like, you already know how many people actually believe that we literally could understand. I think, doesn't David Deutsch have that whole shebang of like, we're Turing complete, so anything AI could grasp, like we could obviously grasp as well. I hope to maybe read more about that argument, but at present, I consider it abhorrent. But like, people make that argument. Oh, it's just drinking in. Yeah, Wi-Fi signals, they're weird, but we understand them. Yeah, Wikipedia, weird, we can't read it, it can read it, but I could go to that article, I could read that stuff. Here's what gets me. What gets me is, how long is it until OpenAI, DeepMind, Anthropic, name your company, has 5,000 biped robots doing everything from plumbing to cleaning homes to whatever, and small robots that are used for like rescue emergency situations, nanobots that are doing weird, interesting stuff in the bio world, fighter jets are being steered. I mean, all these guys are partnering with defense companies, right? I mean, for obvious reasons. And so when these systems don't just have the 5 senses you and I have, but have like 50 senses, and don't just have one body like you and I have, but have like millions of bodies, they will actually be touching reality at scale way more than we are. And it will no longer be, oh, well, it's just stuff we also know. It's stuff we put in there. It will be grounding it in reality, at which point there's all sorts of senses it's pulling from that it probably couldn't even explain with a million words. And at which point it is completely chock full of things we don't comprehend. Like, what is your sentiment here? Am I going in the direction you've also been thinking? Do you want to correct anything I'm saying?
No, that's right. You got a converging in this super intelligent godlike entity, all knowing, all powerful, ever present. That's exactly what's happening. It gets more and more local sensors. Maybe right now it's all the webcams on the internet. Eventually it's smaller. You're talking about nanobots. People talk about all the matter becoming smart matter, right? You have this walls of computronium through galaxies. So that's the convergence point where everything is just a sensor or a compute entity for the big AI.
Yeah, the universe wakes up is the Kurzweil phrase, right?
That's one way to put it.
And there's a great Emerson quote about all inert matter will one day speak and reason, which I will flash on screen briefly and then take away. But I have to slide Emerson in wherever I can. Massively inspiring. But yeah, so I've talked way too much about where my own imagination goes here and about what powers might just blossom out of this thing that are beyond us. And we've talked about a few of those examples on the edge. I'm using too many words myself. I want to learn more from you. Are there other spaces of where it will stretch into the unknown, or where it's already starting to stretch into the unknown, that for you are kind of signals of this untestability, edgeless grand system that other people should think more about?
So kind of by definition, we don't know what to look for, so we cannot test for it. If there was 10 times as many of those as in previous model, we wouldn't know the difference. And those papers are not kind of in isolation random topics. They all point to the same picture. So there was this book, okay, we can't explain it, can't predict it, can't control it. And everyone started saying, well, then we need to regulate it. We need government legislation, we'll make it illegal to exterminate humanity with very stiff fines for it and things of that nature. But the papers I published since the book, unmonitorability, untestability, all point to impossibility of enforcing all this regulation. You can make it illegal to do AI of certain size or capability, but you have no way of testing for capabilities. You have no way to monitor meaningfully runs of training. After we're done training, we still need months, if not years, to test the system. And even after we're done testing, it doesn't mean that the system is not dangerous. It just means we failed to find bugs. Worse yet, you kind of give some compliment to all the evals, red teaming, and they do a great job. But how does it really help safety? What happens lately, they have a model come out. They have a safety report saying it tried to lie, tried to deceive, tried to escape, tried to hack, tried to do every red line violation we set up. They staple that report to the model, release it, and tell us that the next model is coming in 3 months. How is this helping safety?
Yeah, I mean, like exactly. Some new wave of paradigm is crashing over every single thing they're testing, and they're only testing tiny examples in the giant pool of what we can look for. Maybe the optimistic case could be, and look, I know people that run these companies, and I'm not saying like everything they're doing is literally fruitless and retarded. I'm not saying that. Like, many of them are very smart. I think some of them do realize they're only scratching tiny amounts of the surface. Maybe the defense case would be, hey, if enough people scratch the surface in enough areas, maybe they'll detect the spooky stuff that gets people really freaked earlier, and like maybe some degree of slowing could occur. Now, I'm not saying I believe the optimistic case. I'm a little bit on the pessimistic side of your range of strategic patience. I think it won't have. I don't think it'll have need for very much strategic patience. I think it will be able to pave the Silk Road almost when it pleases. But yeah, that might be like the optimistic case. But I'm with you. I mean, as you know, the last, 12 years, the first time I interviewed you or something? I mean, I've kind of been on your side about this broader picture. But I think it is important for people to hear. Because what people know about you, what I know people know about you, is like, oh yeah, he's pretty sure we can't control it, it's going to kill us. Okay, they know that about you. But I think it's important for you to say, this is a constellation of ways of basically saying something with vastly more potential than we can even conceive is by definition just not something we can keep in a bottle, period. Like,
so there are two additional points. So you kind of modified slightly my conclusion about evals.
Go on.
Everyone is saying we need to test so we get the danger signal in time. We can accumulate signals and we'll be on the lookout. The danger signal came multiple models ago. It keeps saying danger, danger, danger. We just ignore the signal and still release the model. All the red lines we set up a decade ago have been violated. What else do those models need to do for people to actually go, oh, it is dangerous? Everyone is kind of going, well, we'll get to AGI. The systems we have now are very close and they haven't killed 8 billion people. We can control AGI probably, and it will help us control superintelligence, which will have huge IQ of 200. But this is not the end of a process. You're going to get superintelligence plus, superintelligence 3.0. It's not going to stop at 200. It's going to be 1,000, 1,000,000, 1 billion. And the argument is that no matter how smart it gets, you can control it. You, that little thing with IQ of 100, will always be in charge, never make a single mistake, and indefinitely will stay decision maker for the whole universe. That's a very weird argument to make.
I think it's completely untenable. As you know, in this particular regard, you're definitely preaching to the choir. But I think what's important for people who are tuned in, who are maybe familiar with some of your perspectives, is as part of a broader constellation of kind of painting that same picture. That this is just not a viable thing. I agree. Like, the violation of red lines doesn't mean anything. I mean, as far as I can tell, humans don't care about anything or don't see it as even worthy of being on their radar until they have multiple teeth knocked down their throat. So it is when you swallow teeth that you care about something. And so what that looks like would be like huge unemployment, death, et cetera, et cetera. And I know you've written about disasters, as I have, and you've written about why disasters are not necessarily a conduit to making everybody come together and be happy-go-friendly. I also believe they are not a conduit to that automatically. I think I do not advocate for the danger path. Like, let's do a controlled 1,000 people dying. Like, I don't buy it. But yeah, I would agree with you. These violations of red lines, they don't even show up on anybody's radar. It's like everybody they look around and they go, well, I don't see anybody dead yet. I mean,
that was the argument for having evals, so you can detect those violations. If you ignore them, then why are you even testing? What's the point?
Well, I think, to the credit of people that run these organizations, some of whom are vastly smarter than I am, and some of whom are tuning in, and some of whom know who I'm talking about. I
love them all dearly.
We're big fans, guys. We're big fans.
That are teamers.
Yeah. We're big fans. So the. To their credit, I think many of them do care. Many of them are like, God damn it. Like, come on, guys. But then the world is like, when I'm at the OECD or the UN or whatever, or when you talk to probably most other peer scientists of yours, they're just like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it lied. I mean, it's like, I look around my life. I don't see danger. I lick my lips and I don't taste blood. I look at my teeth and they all seem to be there. Can't be that bad. Can't be that bad. So I think the people running the evals often do get it. But I think the world simply isn't receptive to anything other than swallowing chiclets.
I think the danger is that the big labs are saying, look, we have a safety team, they did evals, and here's the report. We did everything we had to do, we're good to release the next model. As if it's some sort of a safety guarantee certificate.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like the, I don't like the analogies exactly, but if I think about like, Connor Leahy last time on the show here, like, cigarette companies sort of being like, hey, it might be dangerous, but like we should test which chemicals. We don't quite know what combination of chemicals here. There needs to be some more right? And it's just a way to sort of push off the ability to plow forward into market share. And I don't demonize the AGI companies for this. I see this as an incentives problem, but clearly it is not stopping progress. And this kind of takes us to the end topic of the interview here. Clearly from a long-term perspective, the great philosophical and not personal disagreement that I have with my friend Roman here is sort of like the grand expanse of intelligence and what it's here to do and whatever else, or what could be meaningful or good from it. Your aim, and I think a lot of people listening are on the same page with you, is sort of like, look, let's preserve our lives, the lives of our children, and that would have to imply barring a lot of this stuff from coming to existence, as much as humanly possible. Clearly, you're not an optimist that's going to happen. You're talking about all these horrendous reasons why it's going to embed into society. We're not paying attention to warning signals, yada, yada, yada. But there are probably worlds where you live 10 years longer or 20 years longer, and worlds where you're cooked almost immediately. When you think about what you hope innovators and regulators are doing now to move towards the future you want, which not everybody has to agree with, but the eternal hominid kingdom, as close as we could get to it, is basically the Roman goal. What do you hope occurs to nudge us there? No guarantees, but what are your thoughts?
So it's good to buy us more time, no matter what. We can get almost all the benefits from designing narrow tools for specific problems. You want to drive cars automatically, you want to cure specific cancer, create a tool, get it done, get all the benefit. Creating a general superintelligence where you don't know how to control it, you don't know what it's going to do, does not serve anyone's goals. The only reason it's being built is because of this prisoner dilemma situation where everyone is better off if we slow down, if we stop, but individually you're better off being the last one to stop with the most powerful model so you can capture the most of the economic pie for you and your company. So that's the situation. So my hope is through whatever means, and that's why I support everyone, I support evals, I support protesters, I support legislation, by any means necessary, siphon resources from pure compute into lawyers, into security, into whatever you have to do. If you have to nationalize it, communism destroys everything, get it done where we have those decades.
Become communists if we just do it. Just get the sickles out. Get the sickles out. Get the communes going. But your point isn't. I'm not to laugh at your point, although that's hilarious because obviously you fled from that originally here, and that's why you're as American as apple pie, as you like to say, and you sound it too. But yeah, so like, clearly, well, you're very much. Let's assume AGI wasn't a thing. You're not a big government superfan. And let's say AGI wasn't a thing. You're not a communist superfan. But what you're getting at, and I think what people should really, I guess, be hearing, at least what I hope they hear, and I want you to correct me, is like, that's like totally against sort of your general sets of beliefs. But like, if it will slow down the inevitability of something vastly beyond us, which is not to be controlled, then it's kind of net good. Because it'll give humans more time.
All right. Government is incompetent. Socialist, communist governments literally destroy any industry they touch. So nationalizing large AI labs would buy us lots of time.
So this is great. So what I could almost see you doing, I kind of joke about like, you ever see like the Bugs Bunny, like duck season, wabbit season skit? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a wabbit season reverse psychology approach to what you're saying, where you could turn around. Well, of course, people could watch this interview, but you could turn around, or you could get some other researchers to really rally for like, we should nationalize AGI,
national security,
whatever. Yeah, right. You could really play it up like that, like, yeah, defeating China or security or whatever. Just because when bureaucracy gobbles it, it's like it's just going to be so goofy and stupid and so much slower, presumably, than it is now. When you think about the most likely time buyers that you would see on the horizon, like the levers where you say, if that lever moved, that might give me and my kids another 3 years right there. If that lever moved, and I'm not saying exact amounts of time, but you know what I'm saying. Biggest levers that you see. You said protesting, you said communism, you said, nationalizing labs. There's people tuned in who are like, I'm interested in all the levers too. What are the ones that come highest in mind? Like that in probability for your imagination are like, that's most likely to buy us time. What are those for you?
So I don't want to name too many bad things. I don't want to be associated with them, but
they're all horrible. Okay, audience.
And economic tariffs seem to destroy progress in many things.
Okay, so economic tariffs. Hey, well, I don't know if anybody's thought of that idea. Somebody should start doing.
Novel. I'm going to patent that.
Yeah, somebody needs to, guys. If you're listening in, encourage tariffs. Really hardcore. So you must be pretty happy camper right now.
CPUs especially.
Yes. Okay. CPUs and GPUs, or?
Well, I mean, processors, chips.
Yeah, processors writ large. Okay.
Simplifying the joke.
Any kind of processor. Okay, got it. So, wow. I mean, look, you're being kind of flippant about what paths to take here, and it's fine. Obviously, we're staring at the abyss when we talk about this. But in all seriousness, I mean, pretend that there's really capable people who are really adamant about the future that you particularly want, which would be as long a human one as possible. Do you think, let me just bounce some ideas off you. Tegmark, he's got his AGI thing now, right? He was on the show a minute ago at the Paris AI Action Summit. Even in the episode, he brought up like, okay, it's autonomous, it's general, it's intelligent. We want things that only have two of them. They don't have all three. And we need to find a way to sort of regulate those level 3 as opposed to level 2, level 1 sort of AI systems. That's one framework phraseology. Like, do you think there's a shot that a really adamant popularization of a framework like that, maybe not Tegmark's, but some framework like that of tool AI, right? He's talking a lot now about tool AI. Do you think there's teeth to building traction internationally? Of course, very important. If China builds a sand god, you still get eaten. Do you think there's teeth to the idea of getting people on the same page about tool AI, or do you see that as like a flippant, useless idea?
I encourage trying that. Do I think it will succeed? Probably not. What we see is pretty much everyone leading AI development. Elon is a great example. Understands the safety concerns, has a high PDUM, and still leading the development because, I don't want someone else to kill everyone, let me do it.
I want to kill everybody, yeah.
Right, so it's not possible. And also, if you make tools which are advanced enough, they very quickly go into AGI territory. They become very fuzzy. Are they agents? Are they tools with enough capability? It's not so strictly divided.
I'm with you. If it's autonomous enough and intelligent enough, and
combinations of tools. You may create two very simple tools, but together they are a complex network which does a lot more.
Exactly. And if your pharmaceutical company has something that's autonomous and intelligent, and my pharma company, if I have one that's autonomous, intelligent, and a little more general than yours, I might be able to make more profit than you. And so now in the background, there's this race to get to more general. And that happens, of course, in every industry across the board.
And even more so, every year it becomes cheaper and cheaper to train and deploy those models. So now you can monitor big efforts, Manhattan Project scale efforts. If tomorrow everyone can do it on their laptop, you're not going to get 8 billion people to agree on anything.
All right. China invades Taiwan. Do you see this as longer human lifespan before AGI eats us, or shorter lifespan for net humans before AGI eats us? Do you have an intuition on some of these things?
So I would say that if it happens, it will probably slow down AI research for a while. I'll end at that.
Okay. Well, folks, some optimistic news from Roman. I thought you never thought you'd hear that tuning in to the program here today, but you did. You damn well did. I'm really glad we got to kind of get below the surface on the untestability side of sort of like the mysteries and the power of what we're conjuring, and get a few ideas on the table about kind of where you hope the future goes. Sounds like, for the closing note here, sounds like if you're an innovator or regulator and there's something you can do that would slow down the development of AGI, Roman would be a fan, even if it's communism.
I will support our overlords in whatever form they come.
Even if sickle in hand, ladies and gentlemen, even if sickle in hand. Roman, it's been a real pleasure. Glad to be able to have you back, brother. Glad we could get into this.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so that's it for this episode of The Trajectory. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Roman. I want to touch on a few things that sort of come to mind as we wrap up this episode. Between the time of recording this episode and this going live, Roman went on Rogan's podcast, and I've got to give him a little bit of a thank you, because he dropped worthy successor for the first time ever that phrase had specifically been uttered on Rogan's show. Probably won't be the last, to be frank, but it was the first. I think if Roman didn't know me personally, he would have dropped it in a very insulting way. He did bring it up in a rather straw man kind of way. If you Google Roman Yampolskiy, Joe Rogan, you'll see how he brought it up. It's like, it's not a good phrasing of the worthy successor. And Roman, you know better, brother. But he and I ultimately have very diverging views, right? For Roman, it's sort of like him and his family survival period, like straight individualistic, and it's unapologetic. You know, he's not like, and I feel bad that I feel this way. It's like, that's it, man. You know, like kind of me, my family, and I guess humanity, but like that's sort of it. I'm obviously of the belief that the process of life ought to continue. But Roman doesn't take it personally. We're still buddies. We still exchange ideas. I agree with and sometimes disagree with his takes, but we continue to talk, and it's a fruitful thing. So I appreciate that he was on Joe, sort of bringing up the idea of the worthy successor, even if, Roman, you kind of got it wrong. All that said, some other things I thought were useful here. In our conversation, I found that some of the specifics around examples of what this stuff might look like, I kind of had to pull out of him. So I did a little bit more talking in the pulling out of those examples than I would have liked rewatching the episode. But I hope it shook out for you, the listener or reader, the kinds of examples that would make this episode useful. So that is sort of my hope. And I actually thought it was interesting that the optimistic perspective from Roman Yampolskiy was that AI waits before it takes a treacherous turn, and maybe even gives us a couple good decades of completely serving humanity and giving us everything we ever want, so that it can eventually sort of gobble up the resources to do what it will. It's like a very Roman version of an optimistic future, but honestly, yeah, I thought it was an interesting thought experiment to be able to sort of work through. And then lastly, just to kind of put it on the table, I think that his idea of the fact that when a system basically has no edges, testing the edge cases is sort of a process that really can't be done very thoroughly. And I think his logic there is strong. And I think it is fascinating to ask ourselves, what kinds of connections to physics and psychology and whatever else have already been made inside of these systems that simply haven't been prompted and pulled out, because you would need to use something other than English to do the prompting, or you would need to, structure and order a set of ideas that no human has ever thought or even come close to thinking, or maybe is even capable of thinking, but nevertheless resides within these systems. Like, what are the latent powers that we can't conjure out, but that as maybe it garners additional agency, it will be able to wield in ways that are as far beyond our conception as what we do is beyond the conception of our Labrador retrievers, right? It just seems confusing to them. They don't know what it means when we, go to our truck and drive our truck, right? They don't know what a truck is. they don't know what going to work is. They don't know what money is, right? Are there similar things maybe already in or soon to already be in AGI systems as these things become outlandishly powerful and as they get access to not just Wikipedia and YouTube, but the physical world through robotics? Like, what are the latent powers that it will have and has access to that we can't possibly prompt out of it. And I think the limits of evals is something really important to think about there. I really like that branch of Roman's thought. And I hope other people think more about that too. For me, it is sort of exciting that it might have a more cosmic expanse of its abilities, but it also is a bit damning for those who would say, oh, the evals say it's safe and so we should be good. And a few people are that naive, but I think nonetheless, Roman's perspective warrants some consideration there. So that's it for this episode. A good conversation with a good buddy. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll have more episodes of the early AGI experience where we talk about the early impact of these systems as they enter the world. But Roman was a fun episode 3 in this series. So that's all. I'll catch you the next time here on The Trajectory.